Welcome to 27th Letters Podcast. My name is Landry Bay. Today, we have the God himself. You know what I mean? Depending what side of the fence you're on, you know? Either you love and adore him for his efforts, for his demonstration, or you just a straight up hater. Like, what's that guy's name? Remy? Whatever his name is? I
Oh
can't
yeah,
remember
Robert.
his name. I can't.
Yeah.
We don't even touch on him, you know. Jamhal, Talib, Abdullah Bey in
Yeah.
the building. You know what I mean? First of all, welcome home. You know,
Thank you.
from that little ordeal that you had to go through. We're gonna touch on it, but
Yeah.
the way we start this I go through your journey, thus far. And I
Mhm.
usually nobody starts their story without their without their mom. So that's where I'm gonna start off with. So who's your mother?
Yeah. My mom's name is Felicia. She's been in class before. Before they deleted my YouTube, she'll pop up with my dad and stuff like that. And
Okay,
I have this joke. Like sometimes me and my mom will be talking, and we'll talk about something, and then I'll say, "Don't they know I'm Felicia's son?" Like stuff like that. Um, we joke a lot. Um,
okay, okay.
and I think I've said this on my YouTube or on Instagram before they deleted it. That I used to like try to force a relationship with my mother based on like what the movies and the media would portray what a mother-son relationship was supposed to be. And then I had to step back and reflect on like, well, the relationship I have with my mother is unique and I can talk to my mother the way other people can't talk to theirs. Like me and my mother have an actual genuine relationship where we can joke and laugh and talk about serious stuff from any topic to any other topic. There's no holds barred or whatever, how they say it with my mother. And I really had to step back and look at myself like, why am I even trying to confine my relationship to what the media or what the movies portray a mother son relationship is supposed to be? I love my mother. She loves me. That's what really matters. She supports me. She's trustworthy. That's what really matters, not the bullcrap we see on TV. So
Okay,
that's my
okay,
mother.
okay, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So when you manifested where out in Massachusetts?
Nah, here in Rhode Island, so-called Rhode
What?
Island.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, but she's from New York. She was born in New York.
okay, 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 okay.
She always talks about that. Like, Ma, you haven't
So
been here
so
in a
is
while.
that where she met your dad, New York or Rhode Island?
No, they met here. My dad's from here. So my parents met here, um, in Providence,
Okay,
and then they had me in '92. They were
okay.
gonna name me Fruquan, which is it's derived from the same root that Farrakhan is derived from, which
Oh,
which basically means. So in the Quran of Muhammad, you'll see where Allah talks about Moses, and Moses was given the Furqan, which is the ability to decide from right and wrong.
okay.
And that's where the laws of Moses come from that word. So my mom was gonna name me that. My dad was opposed to
Why?
it, because I can't remember why. But then there was another name Ramel that my mom wanted to name me, and then my dad heard it in some rap, and he said this live before in some rap song, but the dude was referring to a female named Ramel. So he's like, "Nah, I'm not naming my son that." And then came Jamal.
Okay, okay,
all
okay.
all three options of my first name were Arabic or Asiatic. Yeah,
Wow, wow, how ironic. Why
yeah.
was that? As you, what, do you feel like your parents were already on that vibratory? Like, what's
Yeah,
your parents' background? Are they like, are they from the
they're
island?
both from the South. So my dad's father is from Augusta, Georgia,
Okay,
and then my mother's uh, grandmother is from South Carolina.
okay.
So if you look up the name Townsend, that's the maternal side of my mother.
You
And
know,
then the name that my family goes by now, the last name that my family goes by now, was adopted because one of our great ancestors committed a crime or something like that. So he
oh,
had to leave, and then they changed the name.
oh, wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow. That's
And
deep.
my dad's
Wow.
dad was the Black Panther, which
Okay,
I didn't find out until later.
okay.
And then the other day, my parents were at my house and they were playing like old school hip hop, and they were listening to KRS-One and stuff like that. So they were definitely with the conscious stuff, but it wasn't. I don't think it manifests into like movement. It's just knowledge that they had. And my parents are very intelligent, and um, I get like it's crazy how much we get from our parents without even actually knowing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I just interviewed the Black Dot the other day, and
Yeah,
his grandparents is from South Carolina and North Carolina.
yeah,
And he used to travel to go visit when he was young. It's just ironic. So it's something about the
yeah.
Carolinas, yo. You know?
Yeah, a lot of our people are from the South.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there was a quote unquote Black Wall Street in the Carolinas. It wasn't
Well,
just in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was quote unquote Black Wall Streets everywhere. Everywhere our people were, we were thriving
we're
economically.
flourishing.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
flourishing. Do you have any
When sticking together.
yeah. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have two sisters. I'm the middle child.
Oh, okay. You're cut in the middle. Okay.
Yeah, the only
Indecisive.
boy too.
The only boy. Oh,
Yeah.
really?
My mother
Wow.
said, I can't remember which one it was. No. So my youngest sister, she said, was the easiest pregnancy, I think. And then she said I was the easiest birth, I think.
Mm.
And then my older sister was just problems since the get go, I guess. I guess that's how it goes.
So, what was your childhood like?
I mean, my childhood was pretty great to be honest. We moved from like at least 3 or 4 different projects. But when you're younger, you don't really realize it's the projects. You know what I mean? Like, so it wasn't really that bad.
It
I
is
mean, it
what
was
it is.
dangerous,
Yeah.
but I didn't know it was dangerous. Like at one point in time, I forgot how young I was, but I lived in Astoria, Queens, with my aunt Janie, who was also Janaea's aunt. We lived on the 6th floor with her, and it was like a 4 bedroom apartment with me, my mom, sister, my aunt Janie, and her daughter Stephanie. And there was one AC in the house, and it was my aunt Janie's room. So if you were hot, you had to go to her room if she let you in. But I
Okay.
remember one day there was a shootout outside, and Queens is like high rises, brick high rises. We lived on the 6th floor. I remember it was a shootout, but I was too young. I didn't know what a shootout was. So if you ever been in a shootout, it smells like fireworks and it sounds like fireworks, and it's broad daylight. So I'm young looking up, like, oh, where's the fireworks at?
Wow.
And everyone's running. I don't know what's going on, right? And then I guess some guy that knew my aunt was ran up behind me, scooped me up, and brought me in the elevator with everybody else.
How old
And
were
then
you?
I ended
How
up,
old were you?
I don't know, younger than 8.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he grabbed me up, brought me to the elevator, which always smelled like piss. And then later on the news, we seen that like a few, I think one child got shot, and then one lady that was pregnant got shot. So the dude didn't
Wow.
even hit who he was
So,
aiming at.
so it's like a drive-by.
I was a walk by because in the projects I was in, it was like circled with these tall buildings. So
Oh,
everybody
oh,
would just congregate in the middle. So
okay,
he had to
okay.
walk up and do what he did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How were your grades in school?
My grades were fine until about high school.
What
Once I
happened?
got into high school, I just didn't. I guess it was a subconscious thing. I didn't really value what they were giving me, which I ended up learning later that I have a value for useful information, not just information in general. So like
I,
I would just mentally disconnect from what they were saying, except for in history class. And the crazy thing about history class is when I was in the ninth grade, I fell asleep every day in history class. And I passed with like one of the highest grades. And the teacher was like, Jamal, how are you passing? All you do is sleep. I don't know.
it's just
But
in you. It's in you.
yeah. And I wouldn't want to say I was astral projecting, but I remember laying down, going to sleep, and just listening to what she was saying. And then when I would look at the test, I would remember like words would just stick out to like I remember hearing her say this, so that's the answer, and I get it right. So
Wow.
I never really understood that, but I ended up staying back in the ninth grade.
Oh,
But
really?
Yeah, but I went to summer school, made up all the classes, and then all my classes were 10th grade classes except for my homeroom. I was in the ninth grade homeroom.
Oh,
But then when I the next year I was in 11th grade. So it was ridiculous.
okay, okay,
High school is ridiculous. It's a joke. Um,
okay. So after
but
high school, did you go post secondary?
no, 7 days after I graduated high school, I joined the Marine Corps.
I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that.
Yeah,
So
literally 7 days.
yeah, 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 yeah. Because I actually my next question is I was like, when and why did you join the corps?
So the why isn't really like a oh, I get it. Like it's not really convincing. So throughout high school, I mean even when I was younger, like the 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 children on the block, we would hang out, and then when certain people would leave, everybody would start talking shit about that person or those people. I never really liked that, so I would not associate with everybody. I'd just be playing by myself or in my room playing with toys. So in high school, it was basically the same thing. Everyone's backbiting each other, or everyone's complaining about going to the same college, the community college or whatever, or Rhode Island College or Providence College, whatever. Or they would talk about a job that they don't like. And I said, well, all of those things suck. I don't want to go to this another college with the same people, or I already don't like, and or they don't like me because they talk crap behind everyone's back. I definitely don't want to go to a job I don't like, just a 9 to 5 struggling, hating life. I don't want to do that, and I'm not about to just be a bum.
Nope.
So I had a friend, Nick, at the time. He was a European, and he said, "I'm going to join the Marines." And I was like, "What? Tell me about them." And he said, "They're the best." And as soon as he said that, that sold me. I was like, "Oh, they're the best. They're better than everybody else." All right, let's see. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of the best.
You want to
And
test yourself.
yeah, and I remember watching like the History Channel, watching the military channel about the Iraq War and stuff like that. And I kind of believed that uh, you know, our I was convinced by what the media was telling me. I was convinced that our lives were at jeopardy and our freedoms were at jeopardy. So I've always been like a person that cared about others. So I was like, well, I want to have I want to have a meaningful life. So I'd rather stand for people and fight for people than do nothing. And that's really why I joined, because they said that they were the best, and I have this like paternal instinct to protect. And I ended up finding out that my cousin Stephanie's boyfriend at the time worked at the Twin Towers, but he wasn't at work that day, but he worked there. So I was like, oh, I basically just went, oh, that's too close to home. You owe me something now. So it was really like it was just ridiculous, like a ridiculous frame of mind and thought process. I was young. I couldn't think for myself.
Brother,
I wasn't taught to think for myself.
brother. Don't feel no ways. There's
No, I'm
a,
past that. Trust
a
me.
lot of us make foolish decisions as young people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
A lot of us. You know what I mean? And I'm
yeah,
counting myself as being in that. You know.
yeah.
So
Definitely thankful for the experience, and I'm thankful that I wasn't in a position where I had to take anybody's life. Thankful for that.
how long were you there?
4 years.
4 years. So what
Yeah,
did you just honorably discharge or what was it? What made
yeah.
you?
It was so. I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, for 2 years. While I was in Japan, I was part of the Seventh Communications Battalion, and then there was a point in time where this was 2011, like when the nuclear explosion would happen. I was
Okay.
there February. I got there February 2011, and then I think that month or the next month, that's when that nuclear thing happened in Japan. And then, a little while later, they were cycling Marines back to the Seventh Communications Battalion from the 31st MEU, and I was selected to go on the 31st MEU. So, which the 31st MEU is the Marine Expeditionary Unit. Uh, anytime that because the Marines is a department of the Navy, so anytime the Navy goes anywhere, they bring Marines because historically, Marines were the people that protected the ships from, let's say, an enemy ship would board you, it would be
Okay.
the Marines that would fight. So that's the origin of the Marines. So I joined. I was on the USS Essex. I was able to go to the Philippines, and then when they cycled me out, I somehow was on another ship. I don't know. I forgot what the operation was, but when I was in the Philippines, it was Operation Cobra Gold, 2012, which was like a joint operation with. It was like a MAGTF operation, and we were working with the Filipino Marines. Um, Then I was stationed back. Well, back when I went back to the Seventh Communications Battalion, they sent me on another ship, and then I went to South Korea, and then we
Oh,
ended up in North Korean waters when we weren't supposed to be, so we had to go back because the Russian submarines were surrounding us, which we didn't learn that until later. What we were told was one of the engines were messed up, so we had to turn around. But the truth was, which came down later when we were all safe, that we're in North Korean waters. We weren't supposed to be in. Russian submarines were coming.
wow.
So so
Wow.
after that, yeah,
Who
in
messed up on that? Who
2013,
messed up on that GPS there?
yeah, in 2013, I was stationed in Camp Pendleton, in California. And then I did the rest of my time there. I planned on reenlisting, but I waited too long. And I was a little in my mind. I was arrogant. I was like, oh, I'm a good Marine. I got meritoriously promoted out of boot camp. I got a meritorious mass for my work on the USS Essex before it got decommissioned. The 31st MU was using the USS, I think, Bahama Shard after that. But I did like the whole network map for the telecommunications aspect and drew out the whole map of the ship because we were transitioning to the ship. But anyway,
Wow.
so I'm thinking, oh, I'm good at my job, proficient at my job. Anytime we'd go anywhere, I'd be the advanced party. There's been times where networks have been down, and it was either me myself or someone that I directly taught to get the network back up. So I was like,
So
oh
so
yeah,
so what's
the
your
Marine Corps.
background? What was your background in like what you specialize in?
So it was a 06-13 first, which the telephone poles outside.
Yeah.
Back in the day, people used to climb them with the spikes on their boots. That's
Yeah,
called
yeah, yeah.
gaffing. I used to do that. I was
Oh,
trained to do that. That's when I learned how to splice fiber and essentially that kind of stuff. But then when I hit the fleet, which is the actual Marine Corps, because you go to boot camp first, which is 3 months,
uh-huh.
and then if you're not infantry, you go through another month of Marine Corps combat training, and then you go through your your MOS, which is your military occupational specialty, so which is your actual job. So before you join the military, you take the ASVAB, which scores your mentality, and then they figure out where to put you based on your mindset, based on your skills, based on what you know. So I
Okay.
was set for communications, which I ended up learning later in my astrology. My Mercury, which is the planet of communication, is in Aries, I think. So I'm able to communicate and fast and stuff like that, which was fitting for my job because that's what we had to do. Right. So that's how stuff works in real life.
Okay.
So I was communications, but then when I hit the fleet, I was an 06-12, which was a switchboard operator. So then I had to learn the job. I had to learn another job when I actually hit the fleet Marine Force, which is the actual Marines.
Wow.
Um, yeah.
Okay. This next question, um, it's kind of interchangeable, these two questions. I don't know which one came first, so I'm just gonna ask the one I wrote down first. At what point did the information of Moorish science land on your lap?
2015.
So
So
how long were you out of the court by
I got out 2014.
then? Okay, so a year
Active
after.
duty.
Okay.
Yeah. So my active duty contract ended in 2014, which is what I was going with. I planned to re-enlist, but I waited too long.
Hmm.
So the way it works, which nobody taught me this, was that there's specific billets for a specific, I think it was like 2 or 3 years of enlistment. So the people that joined 2009, 2010, 2011, I think that's how it works. They have a specific time frame or window where they put in their reenlistment package because you got to get approved. I thought, well, so and so's a shitbag and he got his reenlistment papers approved. So in the Marine Corps, there's different tiers. There's tier 1 to tier 4. Uh, in my which I still have the paperwork. As I was transitioning out the Marine Corps, there's an entire administrative process you have to go through. I was tier 2 because my martial arts belt wasn't where it should have been, but my staff, so the people above me, the staff sergeants and above, they recommended me as tier 1,
Hmm.
which is the top like 5% of Marines, to the point where you could tell this Marine to do anything without instructions, with few material, and they're going to get it done. So that's where my staff recommended me as. So I'm looking at the tier 4 and the tier 3 Marines. They got their reenlistment package. So I'm like, oh yeah, they're gonna want me, right? That's how I'm thinking at the time. But that's not how the Marine Corps works. They don't really care about uh things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's not
Yeah,
really
yeah.
their focus. Their focus is numbers. They don't really care about proficiency. They just care about numbers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah.
so I had no choice but to get out. And then once I got out, it was a very, very hard transition because you're so used to, especially when if you've been stationed outside of the country. There's a difference between Marines that have been stationed stateside and Marines that have been stationed non-stateside under the same conditions that I was under or that we were under. It's just different.
Mm.
Different experiences yield different results in different people. So the transition was difficult. Like I said, it takes 3 months to become a Marine, then an additional 30 days for Marine Corps combat training, and then however long your military occupational specialty school is, and then to get out of the Marine Corps, it's 7 days worth of don't curse. Here's how you make a resume. You're no longer going to be a Marine, so stop talking to people like Marines, and then good luck. There's
Oh,
no help.
that get decompressed like that. Like, yo, relax. You go
Yeah,
back into the real world
there's
now.
there's no time to transition. There's no mental health. There's nothing. And this is why things like the Department of Veteran Affairs was created because so many people would come back from Vietnam messed up and there was nothing for them.
Yep, 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 yep. That I heard about
Still
that.
happens.
I heard about that.
It
I
still
heard
happens.
about that.
Yeah.
So when did more science land on your lap?
Yeah. So I got out 2014. More science came to me 2015
How'd
from
that happen?
My cousin Robbie, on my mom's side, and at the time when I got out, I was still an alcoholic, which I didn't realize I was an alcoholic in the Marines. I thought, this is what Marines do. We drink, we smoke, we curse. That's what we do. Um, and then, as I became an adult, I realized, oh, this is a problem. The reason why I'm drinking is because I'm not happy with something about myself, and I'm really just trying to drown it out, which is making it worse because my spirit is resisting that. That's not what it wants. So uh, I was an alcoholic when I first got out. And then my cousin Robbie lived in New York. He still lives in New York. He called me one day. I had an iPhone 5 because when I came back from Japan in 2013, the iPhone 5 was the most popular thing. So that's what I had. And I
Mm.
actually still had it until like 2.5 years ago. Now I got an iPhone 8. Boom. So he called me from New York. I ignored it the first time because I just felt like I was gonna have to do a lot of stuff. You know that feeling like I just felt like something major was gonna happen. I didn't feel like dealing with it. Then he called again and I answered. He said, "Yo, I'm in Rhode Island. Let me stay at your spot." I'm like, "All right, come through." We end up drinking or whatever. Go to IHOP, eat mad food, go back home. So just being reckless, drinking and driving. Just what am I doing, right? Which I don't recommend. Then he ends up saying, "Have you ever heard of the Moors?" I'm like, "Why? I don't care. Why are you telling me about this? Like, I don't give a
You
fuck
say
about the Moor
you're
part.
just ignorant. You're just
Yeah,
ignorant.
just
Whatever.
don't talk to me. I'm mad. I'm depressed. I'm an alcoholic. Just got out the Marines. Don't fucking talk to me about nothing. And I'm paranoid, right? So then I look. Then he sends me a link of Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, Booker T. Coleman, and this is when he was. I think it's still on YouTube. He's a lot younger. He's wearing like black and yellow. He's in front of a green chalkboard, and it's like a 4-hour lecture, and he's talking about Moors and how Moors went into Europe and taught Europeans how to read, how to write, how to bathe, math, astronomy, all this stuff. I'm like, this is amazing. I've never heard anything like this in my life. And growing up, I always kind of was like, damn, what type of black am I? Because I'm not a nigger. I'm not like people would say, "Oh, you're the whitest black person I ever met," just because I value intelligence and I speak the way I speak. And I wasn't even like where I am now is way, way more like conscious or aware of where I then was. And all I did was not speak on things I didn't know about. And I try to do the same now. So it was just weird. And then once that perspective was put into place, and especially when he referenced that Moors went into Europe and taught them how to bathe, and then growing up in my mom's house, as a young boy, you don't really want to bathe, and she's always yelling at you, take a shower, take a bath, take a shower, take a bath. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So that cultural connection was there.
Mm.
And my mom is like a neat freak, so that just made sense to me without having to really dig, which I ended up doing later, and then it just made more sense. So I found his videos, then I would look up him, found him on YouTube. Then I seen the lecture that he did with Taj Tree Bay at Sonetta's house on the couch, with Taj wearing like that tannish shirt with the tan hat with the Moorish flag pinned to it, and he was talking crazy. like beautiful. Like it was like
That's the
I entered into
dragon,
the
though.
first.
That's the dragon. Taj is the
Yeah,
dragon, yo.
I stumbled upon every book in the library. Smacked me in the face when when I heard him speak. I was like, I never in my life ever heard any black leader talk like this. And then from there it was I had to watch all his videos. And I watched every single video of his on YouTube, what I could find on Facebook, even the videos from him on VHS with the blue shirt and he had
So
braids in the
let me
back.
ask you a question. As you're going on, as you're getting all this information, and you're saying prior to this you were depressed and whatnot, did you notice any change within yourself?
Absolutely, it gave me purpose
Hmm.
because being in the Marines, I had purpose. Our purpose is to defend our people.
Hmm.
Now that I'm
Hmm.
out, I had no mission. I'm a Marine without a mission, so I'm
Hmm.
depressed. And
Yeah.
I'm an Aries, so I have the warrior spirit and energy. Anyway, I need a mission. I need
You
something to
need
do.
you need an
Everybody needs something
assignment.
to
You
do.
need an assignment. I
Huh?
honestly,
Sorry,
I can
go ahead.
relate to that.
Yeah.
I can relate to
So
that.
once I realized, okay, this is the situation we're in. This is the remedy. Now I have a mission. And
Yep.
then, I've said this multiple times on video, the same vigor and tenacity I was given to Rome, the willingness to die for Rome. I told Moors I'm going to do the same thing with this movie because
I feel
how
the same
dare
way,
I?
bro. I feel the same
How
way. Well, like
yeah,
being out in the streets and you know what I mean, ready to do whatever is that energy. A lot of us grew up with misdirected energy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Misdirected energy. So now it's focused and it's harnessed in the right direction
yeah,
for myself and for a lot of more. And I
yeah,
totally agree with you what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah, that's great. So that's from there. How far did you take it? Because you became a GS. You're Grand Sheik. You know?
Yeah. I mean, so I didn't start I started writing my book after I found out, obviously. But then there was a situation where through my cousin Robbie again, I met this other dude who introduced me to this girl who was going through some problems in 2017. She said like the case had been open like 580 days or something like that. I sat down with her for like 8 hours. I wrote the paperwork, and then we went to court like the following week on that Monday. It was rescheduled for 2 weeks out, and then the week before, um, her attorney called her and said the case was dismissed, and I still got that paperwork. And that's the first video I ever made on Moor Science with
Mm.
actual proof of here's the information and here's it working, not just me running.
Yeah.
So I didn't even make a video until I got proof.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then around that time, my first book was finished, and then I decided to make
What
YouTube
book was
videos.
that? What's the name of that book?
Oh, Are You Confused About Law? So my
Yeah,
first book.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have like you have a couple of books. You have
Yeah.
you have Muslim versus Muslim.
Yeah, so I have Are You Confused About Law? I have Moorish Dominions. Then I have Moorish Mysticism. Then I have The Sultan of America. And then I was working on another book about the Moorish government, but that got destroyed on my hard drive, which I was working on that for like 7 months straight. That
Hmm.
got destroyed. And then now I have this other book, Muslim versus Muslim. And then in between that, I was working on the Circle 7 Quran with commentary by me.
Hmm.
And then I don't know. I don't know. I'm up in the air about that one. I still want to do it, but that's going to take a lot.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, 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 no. That's a lot to dissect, and that would be a good one. Like that's a great idea, by
Yeah,
the way. That would be a
yeah,
good one. But I know it's a lot to dissect. Like
yeah.
so, take your time. You know what I mean? Take your time. Take your time. That's a lot to dissect. You know. So
Yeah.
how how and when did you meet your Empress Julissa?
So my cousin Siobhan on my mother's side is her uncle was her uncle's wife or whatever at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So her uncle Jimmy, well, her father is Jimmy's brother, and Siobhan is my mom's cousin. So we kind of just grew up together.
Mm.
Although we're not blood related, as we were younger, we would identify each other as cousins because that's what your mom tells you. Oh, that's your cousin so and so, and then you just
Yeah,
accept it. Even though you're not blood related, everyone's your cousin when you're young,
yeah.
and everyone's your aunt and uncle when you're young, right? And then, I mean,
It's the
I don't really
Southern
know how it
way.
happened, huh?
I said it's the Southern way.
Yeah, exactly. Then I mean, one year she came to my sister's birthday party. I seen her, said what's up, and I went to my room, and that was really it. And then I guess because she had already been on like conscious information like way before me.
So where
I
were
just
you
didn't
at
know
this
it.
point? Where were you at this point? You were already into more science?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was
Okay.
already into more science. I was already doing classes.
Oh, okay.
And her and my cousin Janaea were close when they were growing up. They would always be at my cousin Siobhan's house, which is her uncle Jimmy's house. They were always there. And so they were close. And then Janae and I were also close because we like video games. So we used to play video games a lot together. When we were younger. And then I started doing videos. Janae seen one of the videos, and I started talking to her about more science at her brother's baby shower, and she was interested because Janae is very intelligent. And she's a Libra, and I'm an Aries, so we kind of just were able to communicate very effectively together at times. So Janae started helping me, and then I guess while Juju and Janae were talking, I guess kind of, I guess it got brought up, and then Juju had already heard about more science from, I think Derek Grace and right, Juju, you heard about more science from Derek Grace?
I love this.
Oh, she said Tashri Bay and Hidden Colors because she was
Oh,
already on this before, way before me.
okay,
She was
okay,
vegan. She's
okay.
been vegan. How long you been vegan? Like 10 years? She's coming closer. I just want to get the facts straight. So you've been vegan for like 10 years, right? 7 or 8 years. So she was on consciousness way before me. She was on this way before me.
Matriarchy.
Yeah. So when my cousin Janae was talking to her about it, she already was familiar with it. She already got introduced to it, and then she realized, oh, my cousins are doing this, and then somehow we just started talking.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, yeah, we're not cousins, but you and Janae are cousins. Me and Janae are cousins.
We already cleared that up.
Yeah.
Tell her we
Thank
cleared
you.
that
Yeah,
up.
we already cleared it up.
We cleared that up. We cleared that up.
Yeah.
She's funny. You know what? Salute to your Empress. You know what I mean? She held you down solidly.
Yeah.
You know what I
In the
mean?
beginning,
Much
she
love
bought
to
my
her.
book. She bought my book. She bought every book for me. I'm like, stop doing that. You're my wife now. You don't have to do that. Yeah.
That's how much she believes in you, man. That's how much
Yeah.
she
She
believes
told
in
me when I told her, like when we first re-met, I guess in our adult life, she came to my house and I showed her my book, and she said, "You remind me of like Huey P. Newton." At the time, that's when I had the afro and everything, like those old videos. I think he was going down on
you. I
Instagram.
seen those. I seen those. I
Showing me,
seen those. I seen those.
yeah,
I seen those.
that's
You're
actually
right.
the video.
You know what? She's right. Because when I'm watching, I'm like, hold on. The brother looks like
Yeah,
it fits the mold. Like you
yeah,
fit the
and my
mold,
grandfather was a
bro.
Panther. Yeah,
Yeah, bro. The only thing is
but
you got
I
your
didn't know
fez
until like
up.
2 years ago. Right, so and that's the video that Canelan Moors had shared, which made like the I think at the time it was Jamal's Flicks. That was the name of my YouTube channel, and then I changed it to Rise of the Moors. But Canelan Moore shared that video when I was talking about Malcolm X and I think Fidel Castro at the library, at the public library. That library was called Moor, MOHR.
Hmm.
Yeah, crazy. And yeah, so
Nothing is a
Canelan Moore,
coincidence. You already know.
yeah, Canelan Moore shared that video, and then a lot of Moors just came aware of Rise of the Moors, and then I would say the rest is history, but they deleted
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah, 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 yeah. It was written. Let's just say that. It was all written. It was all written. My next question is it's been said you can't have sovereignty without nationality, right?
though. Yeah,
Can you please explain that?
yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna try to make it simple. It's
Please,
like so.
please do, because me and you understand on a certain level, but there's gonna
Yeah,
be other people watching this who are just like we were once clueless to this.
yeah,
We just gotta
yeah.
explain it to them, break it
So the
down to
word
them.
sovereignty means like absolute power, but not like a tyrant. Like I have absolute power over whatever I want to do to my body, whether I want to get tattoos or not get tattoos, whether I want to drink, whether I want to smoke. That's sovereign power. The
Hmm.
ability to make choices without any outside influence, right? So now, if let's say if I'm claiming that I own this house, but someone else can take it from me, then I don't own it in allodium, which means I don't have any sovereign power over this house.
Hmm.
In order to protect that, let's say if there's 10 people trying to take this from me, I would need 10 or 11 people to defend it. And then that collective action is us invoking our sovereign power to defend and protect what's ours. An individual can't do that, especially up against organized opposition. That's not how things work. And like a beehive, that entire beehive is sovereign. It defends itself, it feeds itself, it supplies itself, it educates itself, it
It's
reproduces with
self-governing. It's
itself.
self-governing.
Yeah, it governs itself. It does everything itself. If there's any outside forces trying to harm it, they then use those stingers and defend themselves up until the point of death. Because the bees live by give me liberty or give me death.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
and they live by that code so much that they're not willing to be unnecessarily aggressive because they understand the balance of nature. They understand how important life is. That's why bees are not, I mean, certain bees are ridiculous, but honeybees
Mm-hmm.
honeybees are less aggressive than other bees because they understand that if I sting you, I die. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
So you
They
leave me
understand the
to my way of
magnitude.
life, and I'll leave you to your way of life, and we can both participate in life harmoniously, which is what Islam is about,
Mm.
and that's sovereignty. And we get our sovereignty from God, whether you want to call it Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, Zeus. If you read the Circle 7 Quran, you'll see every nation has a name for Allah, but it's the same Allah.
So how do you tie that into nationality? What is the sovereignty and nationality coming?
Because it's related to every problem that our people have, or that I think phrased that correctly. Every problem that we have as a people, nationality can address that. The problem or the issue is, or the determining factor is, which is what I should say, is us actively taking action to do that. So if the beehive is being attacked and there's only 3 bees fighting back, there's a higher chance that that beehive is going to lose. But if the majority of the beehive is defending itself and fighting back, then there's a higher probability that that beehive is going to get everything that it's asking for, everything that it needs. So nationality is essentially that you taking responsibility in in the situation that you're in, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, and and striving to change that if it's bad, or maintaining that if it's good. That's what nationality is. Nationality is self-governance, self-maintaining, not relying on other people. But it takes people who have the common interests, which should be our national origin, to achieve that. And this is what Cuba fought for. When other people were administrating the Cuban government through Cuban puppets, the people were suffering. So the Cuban
Mm.
people said, okay, we don't want outside forces to govern what happens on our homeland. So they fought back. No
Okay.
matter what, no matter so many media personalities were saying, oh, they're terrorists and they're this and they're that and he's slaughtering his own people and this and that and this and that, and they stuck through, and they're still independent.
In regards to nationality, you see how important it is. It remedies a lot. Um, why is it so important for people to know law, especially quote unquote black people or unconscious Moors?
Because law affects every aspect of society, and it affects every aspect of the things that Black people complain about. We complain about not having economic freedom or security. We would need to know the laws around economics, including nature's laws around economics and energy, which is physics, and how essentially a joule of work, because energy is measured in joules of work per second, I think. Then you can relate that to how you get paid per hour at work, and you can see how the flow of that energy or the flow of electrons to you affects your energy input and output, which would affect your ability to buy a car, to how far you can travel, and the way or how far or your mode of transportation will affect your ability to have more energy input. So if you don't have a car, it's going to be more difficult for you to get to work. That's going to affect how much money you can make. That's going to affect your time and your energy and your work ethic. That's going to affect you mentally. And then you're so busy with focus on those things, you're not going to be able to focus on other things. So that way you can't actually achieve the things that you want to achieve because you're so boggled down by doing this one thing, right?
Mm.
It affects the mass prison industrial complex. It affects that. because they're sending us to prison based off of color of law, based on laws that are unconstitutional. And an example of that is for around 20 years, more than 20 years, uh, most judicial thinking about the Second Amendment was that it was not an individual right. And since it was not an individual right, which Massachusetts has stated this on the record, since it's not an individual right, it's not unconstitutional to license that right. But in 2008, the United States Supreme Court already ruled that it has always been an individual right. So by that logic, it would mean that all those hundreds of thousands of people that went to jail for exercising the Second Amendment as an individual right, who made the argument that it is an individual right, were jailed unconstitutionally,
Mm.
right? So
Mm.
now think about how much money they spent on lawyers. Think about how much suffering their family went through because
Yeah.
their
Getting the
spouse,
money
son,
is the time they're doing.
yeah, time in jail, court costs, court fees, commissary, phone calls, because you gotta call your loved ones and call your attorney in jail. That costs money. Think about the thousands of dollars that each individual had to spend, and the amount of time that they were in jail, not just uh, serving their sentence, but pre-trial detention. So now you're held pre-trial for 4 or 5 years. Then you get found guilty, and you got to do 10 more years. So hundreds of thousands of people were jailed, incarcerated unconstitutionally, and no one's batting an eye. But that is how the prison industrial complex works. They're enforcing unconstitutional law knowingly, knowing that any type of remedy is going to come 10, 20, 30 years in the future. And then they're going to say, oh, yeah, by the way, those laws that we were enforcing on you back then, we were wrong about that. But we secretly always knew. You know what I'm saying?
For
So
sure, for
that's
sure.
why it's important. The fact that black
It's the
lives,
same. It's the same thing with marijuana now, right?
absolutely,
Decriminalizing marijuana now, and now
absolutely,
they're saying, "Oh, let's let these guys out." And,
yeah.
you know what
So
I mean?
now being a national means you put the interest of your nation before everything else.
Mm.
That's what they're doing to us. They're putting the interest of their people before our interest. We need
Mm.
to be doing the same thing. We need
Mm.
to be putting the interest of our people, of those who claim the same national origin as us, before everybody else. Look at the Haitians. They got shirts that say Haiti over everybody. And look at what the Haitians are going through now. They're willing to do anything to protect what's theirs. And when I
Yep.
was in jail with a Haitian brother, he was telling me that there's a phrase that they're saying in their language. They're basically saying everything that the sun touches on this island is ours. You have no authority to rule over us. That's what they're saying. That's exactly what Moors are saying.
Yep.
That's nationality in action. They're not allowing either puppet governments to rule or outside forces to influence them. That's sovereignty. That's the exercise of sovereignty. That's what
Well,
that is. It takes the collective to do that, not two, three people.
we know about Haiti being rebellious from time. Anyways, those guys are
Yeah,
riders. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You don't want to play with them. You know what I
yeah,
mean? You know. Um, what like we as Moors, we recognize ourselves as Muslims. You know what I mean?
yeah.
What's the difference between a Muslim and a Muslim?
So if we're looking at the word itself, the spelling of the word itself, the word Muslim and Muslim is of Arabic origin. The Arabic language is 2,350 years older than English. The Arabic language doesn't have a U or an O in it. So it's the word Muslim and Muslim is spelled exactly the same in Arabic, right? So since it's 2,000 years older than English, we can't use English to qualify any of its words because it came first. So we
Yep.
have to use its language, its script, its grammar to qualify its words and its language, right?
Yep.
So the way you spell Muslim in Arabic and the way you spell Muslim in Arabic is the same exact thing. So if you were to try to say Muslim or Muslim in Arabic, you'd be saying the same word,
Mm.
which would mean there's no difference. That's what it would mean.
Mm.
Now there's a non-scientific approach to uh, the differences between it, but that's non-scientific. It's not backed or supported by any evidence. I haven't came across any Moors that has sat down and have done a comparative analysis between Prophet Noble Drew Ali and Prophet Muhammad because they're claiming that Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought us something different. I haven't seen anyone produce any literature, like I said, with a comparative analysis showing any differences. So I produced a book showing the similarities. And in the book, I used the Quran that Prophet Noble Ali gave us, and I used the Quran that Prophet Muhammad gave us, and I used the hadiths of some of the hadiths of Prophet Muhammad and some of the hadiths by Prophet Noble Ali, and they're saying the same thing. So and this is my personal opinion, as opposed to the scientific spelling of the word, because that's science. That's not my personal opinion. My personal opinion is based off of what I read in the Quran of Muhammad, where it says that the unbelievers are trying to find a middle ground of what to do, because they're making distinction between prophets. But the book says don't make any distinction between prophets, because there's only one Allah, which means there's only one religion. So I think people, whether it's with malicious intent or without malicious intent, I think they're trying to separate Islam so that way they have some type of control in their narrative of it, as opposed to following orders, which is what we're supposed to do. Because Noble Ali even said that this is the uniting of the Quran of Muhammad. Which book is that? And he started teaching in 1913, but the Quran that he released, which was divinely prepared specifically for us, wasn't revealed until 1926. He died in 1929, so it's only 3 years worth of existence where Moors had that book to study. So what were Moors living by before, right? But then in the preface to that book, it says that these lessons were held by the Muslims in India, Palestine, and Egypt. Well, which book do they go by? It's the Quran of Muhammad. And then when you look at the back of the 101s, the affidavit of corporation or religious incorporation, it says that the Moorish Science Temple of America derives its authority from the great Quran of Muhammad. Well, which book is that? It's not the one that he released in 1926, but that book should lead us to that book, because they're saying the same thing. One just has more details. And that was specifically prepared and tailored for us because of the mental slavery we had then. So as opposed to reading a book this thick, he gave us something this. And in the Quran of Muhammad, it even says what? Islam is given in degrees. So him being a prophet of Allah, knowing that Islam is given in degrees, he gave us something simple that we can digest, so that way we can be prepared for something bigger later. Just like when you're raising a baby, you don't give them a steak because they don't even have teeth.
No.
Right. So coming from that mental slavery where we were forced, Christianity was forced on us. Christian black clothes in 1724. We were whipped if we weren't Christians. The Willie Lynch letter of 1712. We were whipped if we weren't Christians. The Inquisition against the Moors. We were murdered if we weren't Christians. The fact that they even call us conversos, we were forced to that. So generations of that torture and torment, he had to give us something. And if we make that connection, which Prophet Noble Ali said, love instead of hate, if we approach it from a loving standpoint, I believe we'll be able to see that they are one and the same. But like Noble Ali said, the truth is too stern, and carnal men want not the light. When you read the Quran of Muhammad, there's more instructions on what we need to do, and that can be burdened or appear to be burdensome for some people, and they don't want to do that. They don't want to actually be governed by anything. They want to just parrot information that they really don't live by, and then try to, whether intentionally or unintentionally, cause diversion and division. That part was personal, my personal point of view. The other part was a scientific. If you spell it in Arabic, it's spelled the same.
Yeah.
There's no difference. If you live by love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, that's exactly what the Quran of Muhammad tells you to live by. The Quran of Noble Ali says give charity. The 5 pillars of Islam is charity. One of the 5 pillars is give charity. So when you do an actual comparative analysis, it's absolutely exactly the same.
When I look at the these, what you want to call religions all across the board, I look at them as siblings. They're siblings that are pretending not to be related.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they're not pretending, but the powers that be are making it seem like they're not related.
But Allah talks about that in the Quran. He says, in the Quran it says, and I'm paraphrasing, if Allah willed, he could have made us all one nation, all practicing the same thing. But he gave us free will. And that free will is a test. I want to see what you do with this power. Are you going to kill each other because you think that there's a difference? Or are you going to live in harmony with each other? And then in that, he tells the believers to them their way, to you yours. We shouldn't be arguing about what is and what isn't. But the only reason why I'm addressing it is because people are making it public. So now my job within Islam is to say something about that. That's it. In the book, it says Allah guides whom he will. So if people are going to say something that's not true, I'm going to say the truth. And whoever goes towards the truth, Allah guide them towards that, not me. It's
Yeah.
just my job to say the truth.
Yeah. All you're doing is just being that beacon of light, and whoever gravitates towards it, gravitates towards it. That's it.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah,
Um, I saw a video of you on a panel with Riza Islam, right?
yeah,
And of the NOI. And as you
yeah,
were speaking, he kept on nodding in his head
yeah,
in agreement with your words.
yeah.
Um, Now in 2022, why are we still divided, even though we know the truth about Moorish nationality?
I think a lot of that is on the responsibility of Moors, on us, those who identify as Moors, although the Nation of Islam, we know that Moors too. But when I say Moors, I'm talking about those who wear turbans and fezzes, those who have a nationality card, those who say that we're Moors, not black. A lot of that responsibility falls on us because, like you just said, he was agreeing with everything that I said. So if he's agreeing with things that I'm saying, why can't we come together if he's in agreement?
Well, it goes back to what you just said about
Yeah,
working together. You know what I mean?
yeah.
As
So
one nation.
I look at it as now the perspective I have is they're a different, they have a different portion of our salvation. We have another portion of our salvation. Because what the Nation of Islam does, they actually help a lot of brothers and sisters change their lives, which Moors don't have that much of an impact. We have an intellectual impact as far as knowledge and consciousness. And they have a degree of consciousness, but they can get brothers to stop murdering each other and gang banging and then say, oh, I'm part of the Nation of Islam. I haven't seen any testimonial of any Moor being able to do that. So
Well,
I think if we
I,
focus, and I'm
I,
not saying that
I,
it's never happened. I'm just saying I hear more of that occurs or that is brought up more with the Nation of Islam as opposed to Moorish Americans. Like I said, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but if we just focus more on our commonality, then we can actually come together. I got myself on that panel somehow. I can't remember how. It was an elder brother. He was an old school rapper, I think. He was supposed to be there, and he followed me on Rise of the Moors. This is when I had like thousands of followers on social media. Um, he ended up seeing that I wanted to be involved. He contacted the sister of the Nation of Islam who was coordinating it, and then he replaced himself with me.
wow,
That's how I got there.
wow,
Literally, it happened like in a matter of days. So if
wow.
I can do that, what else can we as Moors do by as opposed to saying, oh, they're gonna talk about black and they're wrong. No, let me go there and talk about more science. And I was literally the only and Brother Red Pill was there too, and he knows it. But I was literally the only panelist with actual proof at documents from the Library of Congress and several cases that I had helped Moors get dismissed. And I said that to everybody. And Brother Jamar Milton had recorded it, and it should be on his YouTube channel. But that was like a 4 or 5 hour lecture, I think.
Okay.
But I was the only one that showed up with actual proof of claim.
Yeah, facts.
This is
Yeah,
what we should be
facts
doing
over
as Moors.
emotions. Facts over
Exactly. So
emotions.
we should be injecting ourselves in these scenarios where there's black people talking.
And you
Let's
know what?
stir up, you
And
know.
you know what? That's something I need to do better at, because when I the word black, and when anytime these guys attach black to anything that they're doing, it does something to me. You know what I mean? But at the same time,
Yeah,
like what you say, I need to overlook that. We need to overlook that and just be like, okay, you
yeah,
know what? Like well, how else am I gonna get the word to them,
yeah.
or be
And in the background information that people don't know about, there was individuals that were on the panel texting me saying, "Oh, I appreciate the way you delivered it. You know, I had heard about more science before, but the way you delivered it was different. Now I see how this works now."
we get it?
Because I'm not coming from a why is everyone on this panel saying black, you're all sellouts? No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
You're
I'm
not being
sitting next to
combative.
you.
You're not being
I'm
combative.
sitting next to you, and now my energy is forcing you to either challenge me, which there was someone on the panel, they were throwing subliminals all before the panel started, but then when it was time to sit next to me or sitting around me, none of that energy wasn't even there.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the type of energy we need to be bringing. Peace
Yeah, yeah. You
with
know
the
what?
knowledge of if it's up, then it's up. But you don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. You know,
Mhm.
so let's keep it civil. Let's keep it knowledge based and solution based. And once you
Yeah,
set that standard, it becomes a lot difficult for these opportunists to come around and be around and just say and do whatever they want, because then they really get exposed.
Well, yeah, I know there's the agent provocateurs are just looking for that type of
Yeah,
energy, you know what I mean, to feast on. And to go back to something you said about NOI having helping guys stop being in the streets or gang banging. Me myself, like I don't know if you're familiar with my story. Like I was serving a life sentence. I came out. I won my appeal. You know what I mean? Like I actually went in for murder that happened when I was younger. I got to altercation and somebody got stabbed and the person died. And then
yeah,
I ended up getting convicted, get sentenced to life. You know, but one of the guys that I went to high school with after I won my appeal, he's the one that kind of brought me into into the light, into the Moorish science.
yeah.
You know, Yasun and Cujo, they're cousins. So
Wow.
so for me personally, I know there's other Moors within our temple come who has that background as myself, where it's like, yeah, like if it wasn't for the information, they'd still be doing certain things like we were doing.
Yeah.
So there are
And
Moors.
more of
There are
that,
Moors.
more of that, more of what you just said needs to be at the forefront of more science, as opposed to just we have the right to travel.
Yeah, no, and like I published a book. Like I'm,
Yeah,
I do my thing. I do my thing out here
yeah,
to let them know. Like my
yeah,
testimony, my testimony is there. You know what I mean? My
yeah.
testimony is there, brother.
No,
You
I
know?
understand that, but my point is more energy should be driven behind that, behind actual success stories, as
Yeah,
opposed to,
yeah.
oh, we have the right to travel. Okay, and then what happens when you get stopped?
Mm.
Because then we get now we got to talk about a whole different thing. But something as beautiful and simple as that can impact so many more lives than just
No,
talking about the right.
definitely. And then when you could touch people, like when your story could resonate with people, we become a fabric of this society. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Of the community. And
yeah,
it goes back to what you just said now, where the power in numbers. So it doesn't even matter if I say I'm a Moor or whatnot. The fact that these people gravitate towards me and see me as a value to the community. If anything
yeah,
happens, they're gonna want to come forth. You know what I mean? Be there for me. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
So just based off of my testimony and my story. So yeah, in our temple there's quite a few Moors that are like this. And
yeah,
and I implore the Moors to other Moors who have this background to put that in the forefront, like Abdullah and Jamal
yeah.
saying.
Because we need you.
Yeah, we
We
need
need
you.
you. Because I'm not a street dude at all.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the street dudes in jail was respecting what I was saying just because I was being myself, and I was
Uh-huh.
and I was offering information that could help them. So now imagine someone who has a similar background as them; they would be way more impactful than I could ever be.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
everyone has a shared responsibility in this, not just you and me. Everybody who has a story has a responsibility,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's nationality.
Definitely. Prior to the incident that happened on I-95, how often did you go camping with the Moors to train?
Uh, I don't know. I know we did at least 2 or 3 like videos of us actually in the field. But how many times we've actually done it or how often, I couldn't really say.
Okay,
But
okay.
that wasn't the first time we were training. And there was actually an incident that we did here in Pawtucket where at the time, because they recently changed the law, I think. At the time, you were just able to, so you didn't need a license to openly carry a long arm, which would be a rifle or a shotgun or a
Mm-hmm.
sniper rifle, right? You didn't need a license to do that, and you could carry openly loaded. These were the laws here in so-called Rhode Island. Uh, and you didn't need a license to purchase it. All you had to do was pass a state and federal background check, and you can buy as many firearms as you wanted. So, knowing the law, reading the law first, I had contacted the Pawtucket police and I said, "Hey, my name is Jamhal. I'm in charge of the militia. This is what we're going to be doing. This is
Yo,
how we're
you
dressed.
you
These
recorded
are the
that,
street
didn't
clothes."
you? You recorded that, didn't you?
Yeah, that was
That
recorded,
conversation, because I
and
think I
and we
seen
went
that.
live on Instagram.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I seen that
yep, we
conversation.
recorded that, posted that. We went live on Instagram and recorded some of the training, and we recorded how several times the Pawtucket police drove around us. They didn't do anything because we weren't breaking the law.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so we definitely, you know, that is within our constitutional right to do so. So, there it is.
Yeah. Why do we have the right to bear arms without de facto's approval pertaining to the Second Amendment?
So now going to jurisprudence, because there's all of our rights, all of our sovereignty, which includes our rights, is derived from the great universal creator of everything. We say Allah. Everything in nature has the natural right to defend itself. If you look up any Supreme Court case, including the newest one from the United States Supreme Court dealing with the New York Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, you'll see that, and especially with the decision in 2008, I think it was the Heller decision, the Heller Court. The United States Supreme Court has ruled that the Second Amendment is a pre-existing right. It's just codified in the Constitution, which means the right would exist without it being written down in the Constitution. The Constitution
It's
itself
natural.
just
It's a natural. It's a natural thing.
it's a
It's
natural
organic.
pre-existing right.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
organic.
Pre-existing,
Yeah.
which is a birthright. You have the birthright to defend yourself from anything and everything.
Mm-hmm.
All it says is that the government can't deprive people of that right, and they can't infringe upon that right. So it's just to protect the people's rights. That's all it's for. But they're violating the people's rights because the people don't know their rights. So that's essentially the Second Amendment without going into too much detail. But I do go into detail on my website. I explain it in a little more detail on my website.
Yeah. No.
With actual case law from several cases, not just my personal opinion.
Excellent. You spoke when during your incarceration early on, and you during those phone calls, you spoke of Miller versus Banta. Why is that case law so important?
I mean, it's very important because the federal court themselves say for the past 20 years, the judicial thinking about the Second Amendment was wrong. That statement in itself is powerful. That means judges are wrong, and they've been wrong. And in that being wrong, hundreds of thousands of people were sent to prison in violation of their rights. That means human beings are suffering unconstitutionally. And it goes into it's a very thorough analysis of a lot of aspects of the Second Amendment, from the 10-round limit. They refer to standard round magazines, 30-round magazines, as high capacity when they're standard. They're not high, they're standard. They talk about the media and the mass shootings, how what the media is saying about mass shootings and what the statistical data says are conflicting. And the courts even say that I would understand how people are emotionally swayed by the media, although this is what the real information is, right? It even talks about the firearms ban of the federal government and how that did not lower gun violence in the country. So now, if an outright ban didn't limit the violence, then the licensing of it wouldn't limit the violence. Because if you say you can't even have it and the violence is the same, well, then licensing it doesn't actually mean anything either, right? And there's no statistical data that proves that.
It's a money.
It's just bullcrap. It's bullcrap. And then the Supreme Court decision that they're using to justify the licensing of firearms isn't even anywhere related to the historical analysis of the Second Amendment, which the Bruin Court said that the courts are supposed to have regarding that. So, and it even brings up the Miller versus Bonta case, brings up a retired Army general who notes the importance of a citizens militia as opposed to the Army, Navy, National Guard, etc. And it's just absolutely related to everything Second Amendment that's going on across this country. And that's one of the courts that's actually pro Second Amendment, and to my knowledge, not placating like all these other, like a lot of other courts, because there's an actual internal strife amongst the federal courts of the Second Amendment, just like back then when they were ruling that it's an individual right, and the courts are saying it's not, but it actually is. So it's very important, very important.
Excellent.
So is Young versus Hawaii, which is what I was saying, July 3rd, 2021. And the United States Supreme Court in the Bruin case references that case in deciding that the Massachusetts statute, along with the New York statute, was unconstitutional, which is exactly what I was saying. Before the decision of the United States Supreme Court.
While when after the incident happened, there's some Moors that were speaking out against you, and they're saying against the rise of the Moors in regards to they they think that the law doesn't apply to them, which is not the case because I've heard you speak
Yeah,
very clearly about where your stance is on that.
yeah.
Um, there's so why what there's a misconception that Moors think that laws don't apply to them. Can you please clear that up again, please?
Color of law does not apply to anybody, including Moors. Unconstitutional laws do not apply to anybody, including Moors. So we're arguing that certain laws are unconstitutional. And then in saying that and proving it, as opposed to logically defending the constitutionality of those statutes, is called a personal attack. They're saying, well, you think the laws don't apply to you. That's not what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And that's literally a psychological attack. It's a psyop. As opposed to defending your position with facts and knowledge, you're going to use an emotional attack. Well, he's this. It has nothing to do with the argument. And an example of that is in Miller versus Bonta, where the federal courts of the Ninth Circuit, I believe, stated for the record that for 20 entire years, most judicial thinking about the Second Amendment was wrong because it infringed on the Constitution. So when we say certain statutes and certain laws infringe on the Constitution, we're saying since it infringes on the Constitution, which is case law to support this, an unconstitutional law or statute is void ab initio, which means it doesn't apply to you. Just like it doesn't apply to you. Just like a judge can't enforce it. That's all we're saying. We're not saying if I commit murder, then you can't convict me. If I committed a crime, then I committed a crime. But if there's no crime, if I'm exercising a constitutional right and you're converting it into a crime, you're wrong. But
Color of law.
yeah, but that takes logic, and most of our people have not been taught on how to think logically. We're taught on how to think emotionally. Well, I feel like it's wrong because people are doing bad things with it. But what about all the people that are doing good things with it? Which in the Miller versus Bonta case, there's copious amounts of case law showing how AR-15 type rifles have been used to defend pregnant women, children, innocent lives. But they won't talk about that in the news. They'll talk about the mass murdering of children. But how often does that happen as compared to people
Bro,
defending themselves?
the assault rifle is the standard weapon all over the world. I don't know what they're
Yeah,
talking about. That's a
yeah,
standard weapon. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
there's little children that have it, there's old men that
And
have it, like all over the world, different parts of the world. You know what I
I want to
mean?
read this real fast. This is on my website. I put so much information on the Second Amendment on my website. And this is what the federal courts has to say about the Second Amendment. Let me find it real fast. All right, so this is United States versus Jimenez hyphen Shalom. This is from May 23rd, 2022. It says, the Second Amendment seems to codify this principle in Heller. It was understood across the political spectrum that the right to keep and bear arms helped to secure the ideal of a citizen militia, which might be necessary to oppose an oppressive military force if the constitutional order broke down. So that's if the states became tyrannical and they used the Army, Navy, Marines, National Guard to oppress the people, then it would be the citizens who possess arms to rebel against that, right?
Well,
Then it says, at the same time, it helped to secure the citizen's right to self-defense when his government was unable or unwilling to protect him from private lawlessness. Then, right, under that, I put several federal court cases have already decided that the federal, state, and local, which is municipal, county, city, and town police or governments, have no duty to protect. So the federal courts are saying, which based on the United States Supreme Court, that the Second Amendment right exists so that way you can defend yourself if your government is unable or unwilling to protect you. Now I'm showing you how the federal courts, including the United States Supreme Court, have already said their job is not to protect you, right? This is Munger versus City of Glasgow Police. A police officer generally has no duty to protect a particular individual. Tyler versus Felling. So versus Bay Area Transit. United States, U.S. District Court, Lexus. Hernandez versus City of San Jose. The police have no duty to protect individuals from private wrongdoers. White versus Dutchford. There's no general duty to provide police protection to the general public. And United States versus Duguay. The state owes no legal duty to protect things outside its custody from private interest.
For
So now you
example,
have that. You have to protect yourself because no one else is going to do it.
yeah. So for example, one of the incident that happened the other day, I can't remember if this peace officers, this highwaymen were chasing somebody and the person jumped in the in the water off a bridge, and they just
Yeah,
stood there and watched the person drown.
yeah.
You know, so
That's not their job.
yeah, like so basically what Jamal's saying is you need to be able to enforce the Second Amendment organically, just like any animal that has, like a
Yeah,
lion has his jaw, his teeth. You know what I mean?
yeah. I
Uh,
actually
uh,
wrote that
uh,
in emotion. That's
uh,
crazy.
trying to defend a lion that's trying to defend itself with a broken jaw is defenseless. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And not knowing anything about law and not being able to enforce the Second Amendment is just like that lion
yeah.
with a broken jaw. You're defenseless.
Or if you have the teeth, you can't use your teeth without permission, which is a licensed permission from the zebra. And this is what I said this in court. I said this in court. I tried to get the transcript. I was speaking to, I forgot the judge's name, or magistrate's name. I said, if you're attacking me and I can't defend myself without your permission, what is that? It's unconstitutional.
Oh, that's a losing battle right there.
And I said it in the court, and this isn't my personal belief. This has been argued even in the Federalist Papers before the Constitution was even adopted. That the Second Amendment exists to oppose tyrannical government, which is exactly what I read from that federal case. And that's when I addressed the judge and said, if you are attacking me, if you are oppressing me, and I can't defend myself without your permission, that's unconstitutional. And then there was crickets in the court.
Oh my God. Were the guys receptive in the people you were
Say it again.
incarcerated? No, I said were the guys receptive with the information you had for them in jail?
Absolutely. So in the letter that I wrote to Cujo, I spoke highly on Lucha because we were in Depot together, and he had been there. I had to do an extra week in quarantine, which sucked. It was 23-hour lockdown. They fed you through the tray door. So when you got out, it was only 30 minutes. You had to choose either shower or talk to your loved ones, and each
Wow.
phone call was only 15 minutes long. So and then you had to redial. So that was rough. I was about to go on a hunger food strike, and then they let me out.
Hey, that's
So by
powerful.
the time
Hey,
I got
hunger strikes are powerful. That's a powerful
yeah, they don't like that.
thing to do while you're incarcerated
They don't like that.
to get your point across.
Before I even got to Bill Ricca, they knew we were all vegan. They knew so much information about us before we even got there. Anyway, so when I got to Depot, Lucha had already been because Lucha speaks like 4 different languages. And he's been to Jamaica, so and a lot of the brothers that was locked up with us were from Jamaica or they were from Haiti or something like that, or they were so-called Spanish, which is also from the islands, or they were just regular quote unquote black people. And he would just give them information. So by the time I got there, I really didn't have to talk or do much. I was just writing down civic lessons because we're all in jail, so we need information that's going to help us. So at a
Mm.
certain point in time, literally all the Asiatics was coming to my cell, and I would walk around the unit just talking about the Constitution, and I had written them some stuff like on the right to speedy trial because brothers will be in there 4, 5, 6 years on craziness, not even having a trial yet. And the attorneys would only call them the day before trial. They wouldn't pick up their phone call. So I started writing down things that they need to say to their attorney, talking about the right to speedy trial, the Rule 36, the right to face your accuser, things like that, because a lot of our brothers are going through these cases, and the prosecution really can't sustain this burden of proof at trial. So what they're doing is they're doing prolonged pretrial detention to force our people
To
to be
cop a
more willing
plea.
to accept the deal.
Yeah,
Exactly,
to
which
cop
is
a plea.
exactly what's happening. So when I give our brothers this information and they will speak to their attorney with just a few sentences that I told them, their attorneys would immediately start acting different and behaving different. So the street dudes that I don't know, they use this information, they see the results, so they tell the other street dudes. And now they all know, like, this is how you can begin to help yourself.
Mm.
So then all the brothers started coming to my cell thanks to Lucha, because Lucha laid down the groundwork. And then after that, they kicked us off the unit because they said we were trying to recruit people into our organization, which we were not doing. We were just giving basic civic lessons to people that needed it the most.
Mm,
and
mm,
was
mm.
punished for it. They even kicked Lucha out of the jail. They sent him to a completely different jail.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. 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 I want to talk about your daughter for a sec. How was that? You know, and before you even I know you're spending that year away from her, but before you even talk about her, I want to talk about her name, Amora. I want to tell you a little story. So,
Yeah.
before I got incarcerated, I had my first child, Tatiana. Um,
Yeah.
she's 21 now. So I had one child out of with another woman. So now my Empress, the person I'm with now, we have three children. And I came out in 2010, and around 2013 is when my firstborn I mean, my second born was born, Morocco. But prior to him, when she was pregnant, we didn't want to know what it was gonna be, so we had a couple of names. So one of the
Mhm.
girls' name that we had was Amora. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And you know what, too? You're 417, she's 420.
Wow.
Yeah. So so
Wow.
so so it gets deeper. So one day, one of my friends had a baby. She had a daughter, but we ended up
Mhm.
having a boy, right? So we didn't
Yeah.
use the name. So we were like, okay,
Yeah.
next time we have that name put down. I
Yeah.
don't know how this friend of ours. I don't know how this friend of ours, this name popped in her head, but she had a daughter and named her Amora.
Yeah.
And I remember, like my Empress was so hurt about it, like, how did they know? How did they get that name? Like, I don't know if we talked about it to somebody, and I don't know. I That's just a mystery, but it's just so
Yeah.
funny that that was the name. And then I just recently had another my third child with my Empress. Last
But
during the pandemic, we had a girl. Well, we didn't use the name Amora. We had to come up with something because we know somebody
yeah.
already used that name.
Yeah.
But
That's amazing.
um that year you spent away from your daughter, because I know for me personally, my daughter was a year and a half when I got incarcerated. I was incarcerated for almost 8 years. You know what I'm saying? So I I know that year away must have been hard for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I cried probably about 3 times in jail, and all three of the times were about missing my daughter. Not the circumstances I was in, not the fact that they could have murdered me, nothing. It was not being there to provide for my family, especially my daughter, because I actually want to be in my daughter's life.
So you were
And
saying 3 times you cried, eh?
yeah, yep, laying in the cell on the hard ass bed, and the thing that really made me cry was thinking about my daughter.
Hmm.
Because that's just a relationship I've never had with. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never been a father before, so it's a type of connection that I can't even begin to explain. I remember me and my wife and I were talking about her, and I said, she I guess she was kind of wondering like why I wasn't as excited as she was when she was in the womb, and I had to explain, well, you're physically attached to her, so you're
Hmm.
gonna you're gonna automatically have that connection before I do. I'm gonna be more excited when I can actually hold her. I can't hold her or feel her. I'm not connected like you are. And then I literally, we had her at home. Well, my wife did all the work, obviously, but I helped with the hot water and stuff like that, and I helped hold one of her legs up. We had her in one of the rooms upstairs in our house, and when I got to hold her, I would just cry. I was crying and just saying, you're so perfect, because I mean, the process of creation is perfect. That's why we're perfected man. We're not perfect human beings, but we're perfected man. Our
Love it.
physical flesh is perfect for us. And that's where her middle name came from, uh, Camila, which means perfect in Arabic. And I was just holding her crying, and my wife has a picture of it. I was just holding her crying, like, just, oh man, it was so amazing. Like, there's I feel like I'm about to cry right now. There's
So
no connection.
sorry to cut you off. The word that was told to me way back when I had my first child is that you go through a metamorphosis.
Yeah,
You go through a
yeah,
metamorphosis when you have these children. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's an experience like no other.
yeah.
You know?
So I literally got to see her come out face to face. I was literally holding my wife's leg up, like, oh wow, her head is right there. And then yeah, I was informing her of everything that was going on. And we left the placenta on her until it dried up naturally, broke off, and then cut it off. And she was breastfed.
Okay.
She's just been so advanced. As soon as she came out, she was lifting her head up, looking around.
Hmm.
Like, how do you get the strength to do
It's been
that?
said. It's been said. There's new Moors being born with their eyes open.
Yeah,
My
yeah, her
son
eyes were wide open.
Morocco. My son Morocco.
Yeah,
My second son. My second born. This is my first
yeah,
son. Morocco is the same way.
yeah,
Eyes open.
yeah,
Eyes open. As soon as it came out, eyes open. You
yeah.
know.
She's been advanced with everything since she's been born. And this is my first child that has made it because my wife and I had lost a child, not by choice. It was miscarriage, although the medical term for it is abortion, but it was a natural miscarriage.
Mm.
Um, that was really painful. Um, and then before that, I had gotten two other women pregnant, and they both had medical abortions, so they just got rid of it.
Wow.
Um, yeah,
Wow.
and so I had bad experiences with that. There
Mm.
was even a point in time where I remember crying to my mom like, "Yo, how come is it? Why is it that none of these women think I'm worthy enough to be a father?" Crying to my mother saying this. So now that I have a daughter,
Allah is
you
the
know,
best planner, my friend.
yeah, I know, I know. Because my wife, I
Allah
told
is
my
the
wife
best
this.
planner.
I told my wife this. I chose part of the reason why I chose you is because I knew you were going to be a great mother, and she's absolutely perfect.
Yep.
Although she doesn't, none of us are perfect, but the amount of effort, time, and focus that she puts into our daughter is the type of women I've come across. They wouldn't have done that. You know, not saying all women are terrible, but just the type of women I was choosing, which was the wrong type, they
Yep.
wouldn't have been willing to do what she's doing to the scale that she's doing it and to the degree that she's doing
I love you. I love your story. This story. I love it. I love it.
it.
And like I said, she has the utmost respect for me. I remember when you were just about to come out, she got a little stressed out because they moved you from one jail to the next over some nonsense.
Yeah,
And so I
yeah,
DM'd her. I'm like, listen, this is what they do. Because me, I've had my little since I've been out of from the life sentence. When I got on Moorish
yeah,
side, traveling without a quote unquote their license, I get into these situations, you know what I mean, where I
yeah,
have to go to court and so on and so forth. So I know there are times when once you lay down the law, for
yeah,
the facto is always looking for a way to squirm its way out,
yeah,
like on a backdoor tip. Like they just want to squirm their way out of the situation. So
yeah, and save
and
face.
once they start squirming their way out, and they know they're gonna squirm their way out, they do little nonsense just to agitate you,
Yeah,
knowing that the
yeah,
end is near. So that's why I
yeah,
saw them when they were moving you. Like that
yeah.
whatever the reason they moved him to that place or what
It
outstanding
was
warrant, it was nonsense.
it
It's
was for like
nonsense.
it was
It's
like
it's
a speeding
nonsense.
ticket or something like that. Yeah, and then when I got there, they held me not responsible.
It's nonsense. So I told them like these are the signs from my experience. This is where I always coming home for sure. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Just relax. Don't get upset. Don't you know what I mean? Just get out of
yeah.
character. Just he's coming home for sure. So yeah. But salute to your Empress again. I can't say it enough. Um, what would you like to teach your daughter?
Everything. I was writing her lessons on marriage while I was in
Hmm.
jail. Before she was born, I was buying her books on money, right? Money, math, and science. Those are my intentions for my daughter. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The lesson plans that I have
Say,
available for more,
say
I wrote those for my daughter.
no Barbie dolls.
Nah, nah. I did. I mean, she has stuffed animals that other relatives have gotten her, but I got her books on science, and then I got her like this easel so that way she can draw and practice her creative side.
Hmm.
That's my focus, and then my wife does all the other important
Um,
stuff.
if you could send a message to your younger self, what would you say?
I don't know. That's something I'd have to think about for a few days and then get back to you on that because
So
I feel like
you have to go
I
pound
feel
it
like
that one.
most of the choices I made, and of course I made bad choices and mistakes, but they weren't like grievous mistakes or
Mm.
choices. I wasn't out there robbing people
No, but
and,
wait, I'm
and
not even
being
talking about
crazy.
choices. I'm just saying
No,
as
I
far
know, I
as
know. So it's like it's very hard to say because I feel like I've always just, to the best of my ability, been the person that's striving to seek the truth and knowledge no matter what. And I was
mm,
actually talking to my mom and my wife about this the other day. Like I've always been the person to stand up for the underdog, even when I was younger. I
mm,
was in I think it was the third grade or something like that. And my one of my best friends, his name was Travis. He was a little slow, and his locker was next to mine. And then these bullies came from, and this was from Oliver Hazard Perry elementary school or middle school. I think it's elementary school, something like that. Whatever the third grade is. They had came across from the other side of the school, which it was always split in half. We stayed on our side, they stayed on their side. But they came over to our side for some reason. And they said, they had on the new Jordans or whatever it was. They said, Jamal, clean my shoes. And I said, well, I didn't dirty your shoes, so I'm not. And that was it. To me, because to me, it's logical. Like I didn't dirty them. If I did dirty them, then I was no problem. But I didn't dirty them, so I'm not cleaning. So then, my friend Travis, who's a little slow, they told him to do it, and he did it immediately. So I grabbed him by his arm. And I said, "You don't have to do that. You didn't dirty them." So then the three of them was about to bully, like literally physically assault me, and then the bell rang. So I was literally saved by the bell. And then I remember when I went into from elementary school to middle school, and they got rid of recess. I looked at the clock, and I remember seeing the way the arms were. And I said, "Oh, excuse me, miss, it's time for recess." And then she said, "Well, Jamal, you're in a higher grade now. We got rid of recess." So I stood up in front of everybody. And I said, "Y'all just gonna sit down and accept this? Like they're taking away our recess, you know?"
yeah.
So,
Yeah, right.
so
You're right. Yeah, yeah. You
yeah, so
agitated
I've
the,
always,
you know what I mean? The status quo
yeah.
from there.
Yeah, so it's just been, I guess, in my DNA, and then learning that my grandpa was a Black Panther and stuff like that. It's just always been in my DNA. It's just
To take
I
charge.
wouldn't, yeah, I just wouldn't have had the perspective that I had now if I didn't make those choices. So I can't really say, huh? Yeah, so I can't really say what I would tell myself. I guess I wish I would have been able to process my emotions better and be able to communicate better as opposed to just getting angry to the point where I don't want to hurt anyone, so I'm going to shut down as
And then
opposed to being.
that's where the drinking, that's where the self-loathing and drinking
Yeah,
comes in, right?
yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Not knowing how to fully process the feelings.
Mm.
If I was able to do that, I think I would have been, earlier and sooner. And of course, if I knew more science sooner, I think I would have been, probably would have been further. But who knows? I don't know. Because what if I didn't join the military and didn't have, that extra build of confidence that I have now? Who's to say that I would have been, the me that I am right now?
Yeah.
So it's very, very hard to say.
Allah is the best planner. That's all I say.
Yeah.
Spiritually and mentally, how did that year of incarceration have an effect on you?
It made me it forced me to reflect on myself a lot more. And I think it forced me to acknowledge uh like the qualities of myself that were good that I would like try to reject for the sake of trying to be humble, but I really wasn't being humble. I was just not acknowledging the great qualities of who I am. You get what I'm saying? If that makes sense. So
Mm.
and it definitely brought me closer into the religion as far as like truly understanding the science of religion, and how Allah truly does control everything. It doesn't matter how much effort you put in, you still
You
have
have
to
to
wait for
surrender.
Allah.
That's one thing I had to learn in prison. I had to learn to surrender.
Yeah, which is hard, which is what Islam is about. Submitting your will
Yeah,
to the best of your ability to the will of Allah, which will mean going through uncomfortable situations that you just have to go
yeah.
through. And I feel like it made me focus a lot more on more important stuff. Like I feel like I'm more focused on my family, although I could be a little more hands-on, but like things outside of my family now, it doesn't really affect me like it used to. And now I'm focused more on Rise of the Moors because, there was times where I was like I was part of the consulate before and look at what happened with them. I was part of the Constitutional Convention. Look at what happened with that. but I haven't put the amount of energy and dedication I put into those things. I haven't really put into organizing and strengthening Rise of the Moors, and that's what I'm trying to do now, based on those experiences.
You know,
So yeah,
coming
that's
out of
how it's.
prison, I always say to myself, for one of the key factors in me not failing is just being about my family's business. And I feel
Yeah,
like once I take care of my family's business and only solely that and focus on that, I'm good. I'll be guided and protected in the most divine way.
yeah,
You know? So and that's what I've done, you know, just focus on my family and that's it. That's all I do is family, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Outside of the Moorish movement, it's just family, and that's which is even within the Moorish movement, anyways. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so um, this is my last question. So, what's next? Do you do you plan to publish more books? I think you mentioned that. And where can we get your literature?
So while I was in jail, I realized that I have to do more of studying our history and then just publishing more books because that's what's really important. The our history is important, and the fact that we don't know it is why we're in the situation that we're in. And then having something for my children, they need to be able to find a concise, condensed version of our history, so that way, when they're doing additional research, they already have a foundation that they need to fully understand, the different aspects of our history. So I definitely intend on writing more books, but how and the way they happen, that has never really been up to me. It's been up to whatever type of inspiration Allah will send to me. Not saying that I'm any different from anybody else because Allah inspires whom He wills the way He wills. So definitely writing more books and just striving to balance everything as far as my mental health, my spiritual health. Like I've been going through, like I have a schedule for myself, and I feel like just trying to stick to that schedule is becoming difficult. But it's only becoming difficult because of my mindset. You know what I'm saying? So having to battle with my higher self and lower self on a daily basis, and then having to maintain a relationship with my wife, and then building a relationship with my daughter, and trying to keep
It's a
the
balance. It's
relationship.
a fine balance. It's a
Yeah,
fine
just trying to
balance.
balance everything.
It's a,
That's really it, and no longer taking on responsibility that's not mine.
mm. Mm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Stuff that's out of your control.
yeah, and just making stuff my responsibility that's not my responsibility.
Yeah.
Like I in jail, I was like, dang, I was striving to do so much for Moors when it's not my job to guide Moors. I just present information and that's it. And I found that in the Quran, it says when Allah was talking to Prophet Muhammad that I know, and I'm paraphrasing, Allah was talking to Muhammad saying, I know that this weighs heavy on your heart because you want people to know the truth and you want people to be rightly guided. I know that. But that's not your job. Your job is not to guide. Your job is to just relay the message, and then that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll do the rest.
I I
And
think
I
it's a
didn't have that perspective.
I
I was
think
just
it's
trying to carry the nation on my back when that's not my job.
so
My job is to carry my family.
I think a lot of Moors go through that phase where they're like, okay, I got this information and I gotta go save the people. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
no. You're gonna get yourself a splitting headache trying to do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
stay within your own lane, do you, and that's it. We're all raindrops in this ocean of
yeah,
information. You know what I mean? And we just need
yeah,
to just do what we do. You know what I mean?
yep,
And we've been doing what we do even before the information. This is how we got here,
yeah,
right? So,
yep.
Allah continues to guide us, Um, what about your literature? Where do we get them?
All my books are available at riseofthemoors.org. There's a tab on there that says books and other literature, and you just get the books. And before they deleted my YouTube and Instagram, everything that was in the books I would present for free throughout my lectures. So because I didn't come up with any of this information. It's been cross-referenced through various books. All I did was compile it into one book so that way you wouldn't have to read 10 books.
Hmm.
Here's the one that in a way represents those
It's
10.
condensed. It's
And that's it.
condensed.
yeah. So, um, that's what the purpose of the books for. But throughout the lectures, I would just give you what's in the books. Maybe in a little, maybe sometimes in more detail, sometimes in less detail, because um, Prophet Noble Darley said, if I give you everything, you go back to sleep. So I try not to give everything in the books because the books are just to try to encourage more research into the topic that I'm addressing because I don't have all the answers. This is just what I found, cross reference it, prove it wrong, and find more information to either disprove it or to support it. And that's the standard that we need to be setting as scientists, which is why Noble Darley named it the Moorish Science Temple of America, because scientists, a doctor will publish their dissertation or publish their report on a specific or specific subject matter, and then other doctors will criticize that with another report, not go online saying, well, that scientist is wrong and that scientist is dirty because of this, this, and this. No, they'll just write a book report or write another report on the same science with either showing different results or showing the same results with the same scientific method. That's the type of standard we need to be setting at Moors. That's why I write books.
That's what really a scientist is. It's like you do things and then your
And
peers
publish the results.
they try a different way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everybody compares notes and see what
Yeah.
what works best. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's why Noble Drew said active Moors and not passive Moors, because through our action is when we get the necessary perspective and or results that we need to say, okay, this is the best course of action. And this is why I don't really have any regrets, because none of my actions hurt anybody.
No,
You know what I'm
you
saying?
shouldn't. You shouldn't. For while you were incarcerated, even at the onset of it, I looked at my Empress. I'm like, if it wasn't for this imaginary border, you don't think I would be with these guys? Like, duh.
Yeah.
Like, I would be right beside you, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you crazy? I'm like right there, bro. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I was really invested in the outcome of you. Man, you could go on my Instagram. I'm gonna send you the link. I'm gonna send you the thing. When the day he came out, I did a whole dance, freedom dance, because it's like me getting out. I was just so thrilled. You know what I mean?
And from a scientific point of view, right? From the science of what happened, Moors were saying, well, we'll say the other scientists were saying, if you bear arms, they're going to kill you in the street. If you bear arms, they're going to throw you in jail for the rest of your life. If you bear arms, they're going to send you to Guantanamo Bay. So now other scientists conducted an experiment, which that wasn't our goal, but an experiment took place and the results yielded and proved that everything that they were saying was not true.
And you know what? That is what a scientist is, because sometimes you don't have a plan. Something just happens. You're like, oh, eureka.
Yeah. Or you have a plan and it doesn't go according to plan.
Yeah.
Because Allah has a greater plan.
Yeah. So, that's what science, and I think that's the thing with even like being an animal on this plane is evolving and with each situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever it calls for, however you're going to survive it, you evolve within that situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. With the information that's presented to you at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if new information is presented to you, then you change. You change according to the science.
Back to the drawing board. Back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Yo,
and
brother.
Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, I'm paraphrasing that, the mastermind, the true teacher, treads the way. Show you that their footprints have been there. They don't just point. Scientists take action in whichever science they're dealing with, whether it be the science of nationality, the science of self-defense, the science of community building, the science of economics building, the science of family raising. You don't take family advice from a single person with no children. It doesn't make sense.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Experience is the best teacher. We know this.
Exactly. That's Allah. That Allah's putting you through that so that way you can learn.
Yep. Jamhal, thank you so much. Again, salute to you on your journey. Salute to you. I would say for the sacrifice you made, because I know being away from your daughter is hard, but again, it was a plan as part of the grand scheme of
things.
Now.
I'm making up for all that. I get
exactly. To hold that like for me, my oldest daughter, I wasn't there for all those years, right? So now with this
Yeah.
little girl, like it's just that much more real. Like I love my, obviously
Yeah.
I love my two boys, but just not
Yeah.
being there for my first daughter, but now
Yeah.
having this experience with my daughter,
Yeah.
my latest child, my daughter,
Yeah.
it's just, man, like sometimes I won't lie, man. I get teary eyed thinking about the dynamic of those two these two daughters of mine. You know what I mean? Of the experiences I have with both of them. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I want to thank you, salute
Thank
to
you.
your Empress. You know what I mean? Hey, I need to get my
Hey.
grills. I need to get my grills. Like I want to put in my order for my grills, fam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I was
Yeah.
telling
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
Empress because my Empress, she meets me, as a different man, evolved and very, you know what I mean? Not the
Yeah.
same person I was before I went to prison. You know, I
Yeah.
already know I was the black guy before, wearing
Yeah.
Nikes, looking fly, all that. Now
Yeah.
I just I do simple things. So the other day,
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, you know what? I'm thinking about getting girls because I was watching, getting ready for the your interview. So I'm
Yeah.
listening to your girls. I'm like, yo, you know what? Yo, I need to get get something back. And I
Yeah.
told her, she's laughing. I'm like, yo, true, you don't know. That's why you don't know, because you only met me.
Yeah.
You only met,
Yeah.
I could still, you know what I mean? I could still put
Yeah.
it
You still
together.
get flossy and fresh. What you mean? And this is a hadith. This is a hadith from Prophet Muhammad. That's that. And I'm paraphrasing. It says that Allah loves to see His bounty on you. So why
It's
not?
wrong.
This
It's
this
wrong.
this old Aztec skulls with jewels in their mouth. This is our culture. Why not?
For sure. No, I had them. I had them. When I was younger,
Yeah.
I had them. I had them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I had them. But she don't know that part of me.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
I got incarcerated, most of my pictures were lost. There's a few pictures she sees, but when I'm like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yo, trust me, But
Yeah.
yo,
No. No. Allah loves to see us dressed well. Allah loves to see us flourishing. That's what He created us for.
for sure, for sure, for sure, because we're a representation of
Yeah.
Allah, so we gotta shine, just like
And every other culture has their traditional dress, and they look, gorgeous for their culture, and they dress how they dress. Like we need to bring that back to Moorish time.
oh, for
Let's
sure, for
bring back
sure,
the
for sure,
grills. Let's
for
bring back
sure,
the turbans and the fez. Let's bring it back
for
with the
sure.
grills in. That's
Oh man.
ours.
Oh, you know what? Hopefully everything works out with the whole
Yeah,
situation with this de facto mercenaries.
yeah,
And then somewhere down the line we all gotta reunite, fam. Because
yeah,
I say reunite because it's already been divine. We already met many times before in other
yeah.
lifetimes. It's just now we just gotta reunite. You know what I mean?
Well, so what part of their strategy is to have a no contact order with certain people, but we just had another motion to join the cases. So if they get joined, which it seemed like they were going to get joined based on what the judge was saying, then that no contact order is going to be lifted, and we can all begin to talk to each other again. So, and
It's not.
there's just a lot I can't say because you know what I mean.
Yeah, you
But
already know. You already
inshallah
know.
soon,
That's why
yeah,
that's why I didn't even get delve into the actual
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
This is just all about your journey and so on and so forth.
yeah. I
Because
appreciate
if anybody wants to know about, what I mean, the incident that happened, you can go online, do your own research, you see it all. You know what I mean? He ain't gonna speak on it right now. I'm pretty sure it down the line in a book, in one of his books, you're gonna hear about it. You know what I
it.
mean?
Yeah,
Down the line.
maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
either going
mean,
to be in a book
one day
or in a video.
you're gonna write an autobiography one day. We all gonna, you know what I mean? And this, because we're almost likened to the disciples, and each experience, our individual experience is a book
Yeah, yeah,
within that Bible. You know what I mean?
yeah,
As you want
yeah.
to call it,
That's
or
what the
the
Bible is
Quran.
about. Individual experiences. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yo, brother, appreciate you, love you. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
love you too. I appreciate you.
Spiritually, I was just like, bro, just stay strong, and you did
Yeah,
everything right. Like flying colors, never
yeah,
stress. Your Empress, oh my God, same thing. And the only thing I just it just sucked that you have to be away from your child for that year. But
yeah,
again, it just makes it that much more better
yeah.
now. You know what I mean? When you hold her, you know what I
I'm
mean?
I'm glad. I'm glad that other people can see it.
Oh, for sure. Oh, no, 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 brother, back. Yeah. Then my Empress was always watching your page. She keeps me updated. And it's like, okay, this is what's going on. Oh, If we need
Yeah.
to send some fiat, okay, yo, we gotta send some fiat, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? So that's like, is he out yet? That's all I'm waiting for. Is he out yet? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Yeah. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
it's great to see you, and thank you
Thank
again.
you.
27th Letters, the podcast. Thank you so much for coming out, Jamhal. And
Thank you.
salute to your Empress, and peace to your daughter, your beautiful daughter. And enjoy your family. And like I said, Allah is the best plan. Is the best planner, and nothing is a coincidence. And your steps are guided and protected always. So
Appreciate
just
that.
just keep doing what you're doing and keep your heart clean. I know, and none of these doubts. I have no doubt that
Yeah.
you're going to
Thank
continue
you.
to do this thing. I appreciate
Thank
you,
you.
God. Peace.
Appreciate you.
Islam.
Peace.